Supposed to be this far.
How close do you want your microphone to be? The point of a podcast microphone, eh?
Not where I feel like.
No. Right now, you can just be. So, how close do you want it to be? Does it feel close enough?
As long as
now
you can hear me.
the thing is about you is now we are recording and you want to speak soft.
Like this.
And before we're recording, you were on your real voice.
No, this is fine.
Is that perfect? You're comfortable with that?
Yes.
You're good with that?
If you can hear me, this is my real voice.
I mean, I can hear you.
Yes.
And I think
they can hear me.
Jono can hear you.
Yes.
And I think they can hear you at home,
Yes.
wherever they're watching this from.
Whoever gonna be watching.
Is that you performing your YouTube thing now?
My fat.
That's what happens when you have a professional on your channel. Welcome to Leave It Better. I'm your host, Smash Africa. And this is Leave It Better with Smash Africa and friends. And I have so many people I call friends, but some might not call me their friend. But I know for sure when I give them a call, they will pick up. And this time around, I decided to bring the good doctor. Oh, scratch that. The good doctor Kenandeep.
Oh my word. Oh my God.
Take two. My friend, the one and only Dr. Hopolang Matee is joining me for a conversation that is going to literally pull the rug under your feet based on what your upbringing was like when it comes to who you grew up with, who raised you, and how present those individuals were. We'll be taking a deep dive into her thesis about absent fathers making a reconnection with their children or their child, and how that journey of the thesis and the research behind it opened our eyes in terms of the world of absent fatherhood. And this time around, I want to say I'm so glad you did not focus on this thing that it's very prevalent in South Africa and in America. It's a global thing, right? That we don't have present dads.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of absent dads.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have a lot of absent dads?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? You were like, no, I've read a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
How about we take a different look at this and say, there are probably dads out there who want to reconnect with their children.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens later on. And what does that journey look like?
Right.
And I can imagine it must have been a taxing, emotional journey that said something about people's state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
people's society's influence, and money.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bag played such a pivotal part in whether they could reach out and reconnect or not reconnect.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that. I just want to take off my scrunchie.
You wanna be you?
I'm always me.
Yeah.
So for the purpose of this interview, what would you like to be referred to, as doctor or as what I call you, Hopolang?
Hopolang.
Okay, Hopolang, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Get sharp. Now,
I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm
well.
well.
No, you'll be fine. You drink water, breathe. Sharp. So you recently relocated to Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
You practice that side. What is it like to be a South African living out in Dubai? A professional South African living out in Dubai.
It's exciting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also nerve-wracking,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still navigating imposter syndrome.
Sure.
I miss home. I don't think anybody wants to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Or for me,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to leave. I felt like I had to leave.
Sure.
But it's also opened up so many spaces for me, career-wise. Personally, I've met so many different people. Like, Dubai is the hub of expats. So I've met people from all over the world. And then, like, how I describe it in the room,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody, like, it's 90, so Dubai is 90% expats and 10% locals.
Okay.
And every hour, I feel like I'm in a different part of the globe.
Because of different accents.
Because of different accents, different cultural groups. So I'll have like a client from America and I'm like, okay, where in America? Oh, you're from Seattle. What does that even mean? Do I know where Seattle is? And then they educate me without even knowing it.
Sure.
And then I have a 10-minute break, and then the next hour I'm in Europe. I'm in the UK. I'm like, ooh, what's happening here? I didn't know this. And then I'm in Africa. So it's like it's really broadened a lot of my horizons, even just mentally. I'm learning so much. I'm enjoying it. I like it there.
And you are a licensed psychologist. What does a licensed psychologist mean? Because I referred to you as a doctor,
Yes.
ne? But you need to break it down for those people who don't know.
Licensed psychologist means I'm qualified.
Okay.
I went through the proper channels to get a qualification. I was vetted out by an institution that is reputable, that has a program that has been vetted. I am certified by the medical board, the HPCSA, which certifies in South Africa all the health professionals, be it doctor, psychologist, social worker, whatever. We all go through that. And then in Dubai, I'd have to be licensed by the DHA, the equivalent of that.
Okay.
I've studied the minimum amount of years to qualify to be a clinical psychologist, which at Wits, because I studied at Wits, is 3 years undergrad, 1 year honors, 2 year masters, and then because I'm extra, I did extra to get my PhD so I can have that title.
So I would imagine education was a big part of your upbringing.
Yes. Yes.
Walk me through like the influence of that and where you are growing up and who's telling you skolo ngwanaka skolo tlolela bashimane.
Yeah, that sounds like
books before boys.
That sounds like my family. I always say I come from a family where I didn't have a choice because my grandparents, both my grandparents were principals. Batwa Shabville in Davao. My grandmother, maternal grandmother, was a primary school principal, and my maternal grandfather was a high school principal.
Sure.
So already, I mean, before I'm born, they say
you're gonna be a prefect,
chief,
class
school
captain.
is important. If you had no idea. And then my mom studied, like, a lot of people in my family are very learned at different levels.
Okay.
Not all at the highest level, but some sort of something.
Education.
Something has to happen in my family.
There's also a completion. So it's not dropouts.
So some have dropped out, and then just the vibe, like the vibe of the family says, "Khutlela."
Okay. They put you under pressure.
You know, well, depends.
Well, look,
it depends,
let's
but
not
you feel it.
sugarcoat.
You feel it because you're like, hey, mang uqedile.
That's what I'm saying. That's the
And
pressure.
so-
That's the subtle pressure that you get.
Yes. And then I think I've always had a very intentional mom who has a passion for education. My dad also was a very learned man, very smart man himself. So I think just from both sides. Mama was very intentional about, I remember reading at a very early age. I had an atlas. I remember having an atlas at like 7 years old, 9 years old, somewhere around there. And I was learning like the
You
world
enjoyed going through your atlas.
and reading the dictionary. I was such a nerd.
I would never hang out with you.
I was such a nerd.
I'm glad I met you
Well,
like
a lot
after
of
school.
people didn't want to hang out with me. That's the problem.
I would never hang out with you.
So yeah.
But I hang out with you now, and when you are here,
And I'm still the same nerd.
yeah. I mean, like I've. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Bonus vale. My education and books have me having a conversation with you.
And also like a very different conversation. So and that's where we are gonna segue into it. Now, your thesis had objectives, right? You were exploring the Black South African men's experience of attempting to reconnect with their previously estranged child or children, having been absent from their lives.
That's a lot.
So like once you like ding ding, the movie that idea. Ding ding. Before we even go into the thesis, tell me about your dad.
My dad.
Your father. You know, I put on shades because half the time the lights are blinding. But I'm going to tell you something exciting. Dreamstream.co.za is the plug for exclusive content, ad-free content, and if you are looking to record a podcast, video content, or record your album, check them out. And if you don't, man, we'll never know if you got the talent. Go to dreamstream.co.za. My name is Smash Africa, and I co-sign this message.
So my father has passed on,
Mhm.
2014.
Mhm.
It's been 10 years. Prior to that, he himself was an absent father. Um, until 15, until I was 15 years old, and I said, I'm gonna find you because you're not finding me. But I actually started asking that question when I was 9. I went to my mom and I was like, hey, other kids have this guy in the house or around and I don't. Where is he? Right?
Mhm.
And she wasn't ready to have the conversation. A lot was happening, fair. And then she tricked me and said, we're gonna have it at 12. You're gonna be mature enough to have this conversation at 12.
And kids never forget.
And I don't
I'm
forget.
talking about kids.
Nah, on top of that, I don't forget. If you tell me something today, smash.
Please don't expose our previous
I
conversation.
won't, but I'm gonna remember it 10 years from now. I don't forget.
What?
That's why I'm good at my job. I don't forget. And I don't forget details. Literally on my 12th birthday, I said, hey, ma'am, remember at 9 years old, you said 12 years old. I'm 12 now, I'm mature. Tell me, she still wasn't ready to have the conversation.
That's 3 years later.
That's 3 years
You
later.
gave her 3 years to
I gave her 3
process
years.
this
As,
whole
as a
thing.
kid, I was like, okay, clearly it's emotional. Clearly there's something going on. Clearly it's big. You're a good enough mom where I know that you wouldn't intentionally want to harm me or it's not coming from a malicious place. Her energy, I could tell that it just wasn't a good conversation to have. So I gave her the 3 years. I don't know where I got that maturity from at 9, but I gave it to her. And at 12, she still wasn't ready, but she gave me a snippet. And she was like, look, this is what happened. And what I love about my mom is that she gave me both sides. She's like, this is where he went wrong and this is where I went wrong, but I'm not going to expand. So I said to her, I'm going to give you 3 more years.
So you are 12.
I'm 12. I'm like, I'm going to
And
give
you
you
are
three.
adding.
Yeah.
So that's like, if you look at it in terms of varsity, on a degree mazali. But carry on.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
now I'm like, okay, you've given me enough to calm me and it makes sense in my mind and it's gotten my anxiety down. And it's like, it's weird. Like when people are like, where's your dad? I don't have an answer, you know? So she gave me enough for me to feel settled. And then she gave me enough for me to prepare her. At 15, I want to get Hopolang when I was 9. At 15, I'm coming back. And when I come back, I want the whole thing.
And now
And we're looking for this guy.
you must
by the
understand,
way.
at 15, now clever.
Yes.
And she should have actually like figured out, like try to find answers because she's been an
Absolutely.
adult for 15 years.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many siblings you have, but like
Many.
you know what I mean. So no, not in terms of your not in terms of your dad, but rather like how long your mom had your mom been a parent before you
Yes.
arrived. You see what I
Yes.
mean? So she's had this grace and this time
Yep.
to reflect on it.
But I was also I was such a vocal child that I was very honest with her. I said, I'm giving you 3 years, and this is what I'm giving you 3 years to do to prepare yourself to have the full conversation with me. Age appropriate, it's fine, but we're also gonna go look for him. So you've got 3 years to find him. Is he still alive? Who's your contact? How are we doing it? Who we doing it with from our side of the family? Doesn't have to be with you. Can we ask my lawmate? But I'm gonna do it with or without you. But I would like it to be with you because you don't know what it feels like because you grew up with her dad. Like, you don't know what it feels like to not grow up with a dad. And I want him to answer me. There are things that you can't answer. Why?
Wait, see.
Yeah, I hear what Mama's saying. We're not ring, you know? Yeah. And then I reconnected with him at 15. Very complex connection. Like, he was open. My dad has many kids, but he's always been, I think we all have the experience of we were wanted. He just made very poor decisions.
Elaborate. First, elaborate of being wanted, and then we'll further expand.
I've never felt from my dad after speaking to him that I was a mistake. He didn't want me. Versus whatever happened between him and my mom, complicated things. Versus not knowing how to be a dad, being irresponsible, context, time, placing of that pregnancy. His own manhood, his own personal journey. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with, am I worthy to be born? Do I want this child? It's just that I need to grow up as a man.
Damn.
That's what I got from that conversation and many conversations. So But then that doesn't take away the multiple feelings you feel, because then you're like, and a whole journey went through where there was anger, there was anxiety, there was depression, there was disconnect again. Funny enough, they then stayed friends, my mom and dad. She would speak to him, I wouldn't.
So you were in a way responsible for them. Because they were dating when you were
Yes.
had,
Yes.
and you played a part in saying, but you guys can get along. You don't have
Yes.
to be in each other's lives like husband and wife, girlfriend and boyfriend, but you can
And
coexist.
and the nice thing about them, going back to your previous question, how I must elaborate on feeling wanted. I was planned.
Sure.
I was planned because it was whatever special date by a hotel. My mom tells a story all the time. It's so
Love this for
embarrassing.
you guys.
So it wasn't an oopsie. So I think knowing that
Oh
as a
man.
kid as well really helped me and gave me the confidence to say, if I wasn't an oopsie, what happened?
For you not to
Yeah,
be,
like what happened? Like why what happened? I wasn't an oopsie. Anyway, then yeah, the ebbs and flows of his absence, my feelings, me growing up, me realizing after I meet you how angry I am or how affected I am, you still being irresponsible, making promises and not keeping them, led to a shutdown again. And they kept in contact, and my mom played such a huge role in fostering that relationship to say Hopolang skakwata, or let's process this. She took me to therapy. I rejected therapy, then I went back to therapy. Like, she did so much, and he did so much. He stuck around. Like, he withstood my wrath and my anger and my feelings, and I don't know how many times that man apologized. And I remember at some point I would even like make a joke of him, about him, to my mom. Go phone ha, be odlo apologize.
and because you must understand, like, we've all been teenagers, bro.
Yeah,
And how short we
yeah,
can be.
yeah.
And how moody, can I use the word moody? Because
Absolutely.
sometimes you need to tread carefully in terms of, like, are you now deducing someone's emotions to being moody, like,
No.
or what's the other phrase? It will come to me when it does. But like, I do not want to make it small.
And as
But
a
this is what
teenager,
teenagers go through,
yeah,
this, and parents need to understand this. And we are fortunate enough to have the presence of mind to know this.
yeah,
And also, our kids are rather too young right now,
yeah.
at least. But as they grow older, we're gonna have to dig deeper and deeper.
Not looking forward. Not looking. And I believe that God gives you the child that will teach you the lessons that maybe you didn't understand your parents going through. I see it with my daughter. She's exactly like me, just 100 times worse. Both positive and negative. Whatever I was, it's amplified. So I know that I was a nightmare as an adolescent. I had a lot going on, but I was a nightmare. For my parents to survive that, I'm still going to survive a lot.
Okay, cool. So you've given us a sense of um what could be the big motivation behind your
The
thesis.
personal one.
Yeah. No, because that's all you need. It's like
No.
I know, I sometimes look at purpose-driven work as like the things that happened to you in your past. And you never really got the answers that you looked for, or you never got the validation, you never got the recognition. But because the older you grow, and this is a burning desire for you to find answers or get your perspective out there, you find yourself walking that trail. The one that's like, but why ayakwa? But they don't know internally what you went through.
Right.
So, I got to go through your over 3,000 words thesis. I was impressed. But I was also triggered. But I was also reminded that as someone who grew up without his mother being present, his biological mother being present in their life, and later reconnecting with their mother because my daughter is a catalyst, it triggered me. It put me in a place where I'm like, oh, it was so easy for me to say, yeah, my dad was there, and most people that I grew up around did not necessarily have a present dad, so I'd be chuffed about that. But I never really spoke about how unhappy I was not to have my mom there.
Yeah.
And even though my dad got married 2 times after he divorced my mom, there was always a female figure, but it never felt like my mom. Even though I called her mom, it
Yeah.
never felt like my biological mother.
Yeah.
So this, like, it's just like young ravaza. This is how in Baba.
I'm glad.
And I'm trying so hard to have grace
Mhm.
on whatever circumstance, whatever situation. We'll never really know until we put yourself in the people's shoes, whether it's the absent parent or the child who grows out without that parent. We really need to immerse ourselves. Now, your first objective was to examine the conscious and unconscious motivations for attempting to reconnect with their children. Let me paint a picture for you. You are watching this right now, and you might be thinking, I haven't seen my daughter or I haven't seen my son since they arrived on this earth because my partner and I had a fallout. Families were involved, were barred from connecting. And you are watching this video and you are feeling like that's the motivation I needed to actually pursue this journey of wanting to reconnect.
DreamStream, a place to create yourself. Record video, music, and podcasts in our full-service studio. Record video, music, and podcasts in our full-service studio. DreamStream, a place to create yourself.
You had 8 participants in your research. Of those 8, 2 were successful in the reconnection. 6 failed. I saw this and I was like, you failed, Daddy.
No.
2 out of 8. No, I'm just looking about like stats. You know, when they back in the day, they're like, I'm paraphrasing, the stat could be wrong, but like 9 out of 10 people in South Africa will experience being a victim of crime. So you'd be like, so I must count, and I'm one of those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you read this and you look at the plight of absent fathers, and someone is reading your thesis and saying 2 out of the 8 were successful, what happened to the 6 who did not successfully reconnect with their kids? Let's begin there.
So I don't view it as a failure
Okay.
because I think that absentee fatherhood in South Africa has shifted so much that we're having attempts of reconnection.
Okay.
And that's a hopeful thing.
Progress, right?
It's progress. And I think that it takes courage to do that. It takes courage to say, I did something that I don't want to do or be anymore, and I want to change it and shift it. And in that thesis, there are many reasons as to why those 6 men couldn't, right? And if you expand those numbers to, well, then if every 2 in 8 men reconnect, that's a lot, right? My research started in masters, where I looked at why absent fathers are absent, Black absent fathers are absent to begin with. And that's what inspired looking at the reconnection. And I can tell you now, that master's research was in 2016. That's how many years later now?
Oh, bro, it's many years, bro. It's
17,
it's
18, 19, 20, 24. 8 years. 8 years ago, a lot of dads weren't even thinking of reconnecting with their kids because they were too scared. So the fact that then from 3 years ago, fathers are saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to take a shot at it, for me, it's hopeful. The fact that the 2 did, those 2 are connected to other dads. that are going to impact another dad and say, this is how I did it. This is the perspective I took. Have you tried this? Or this is what it felt like. Or these were my challenges. You're not alone. You know, it's possible because the stories are so similar. The themes are so similar in what men, particularly Black men, experience and go through. So even those two, yes, and this is why it's important in research that you also don't just look at stats and just the numbers, but you analyze what those numbers mean.
Yeah.
What happened?
And that was in my case, I saw numbers.
Yes.
And these, I was like, oh,
What
red,
happened to the
red,
what
red. All
happened
I
to
saw
the
was red,
six?
red.
What happened to the six? Because in what happened to the six, there's solutions, there's opportunity, there's more conversation. It's what you and I are doing now. There's whoever's going to be watching this to say, hey, I'm one of the six. Oh, I didn't think of this. Oh, somebody did reconnect. Uyenze wrong.
I'm gonna take a piece from the thesis. Here you say only one father mentioned how he recognized that reconnection will alleviate the strain that he imagined his ex-partner experienced as a single parent. So that means this person was considerate.
Yes.
And you go on to say he was able for a moment to introspect, take responsibility, and empathize with the other. In general, however, the motivation to reconnect had to do with reparations and restoration of something once disrupted. Perhaps this disruption referred to both their current fathering and their experiences of having been fathered.
Yeah.
And the reason why I mention this part, you get a situation where my personal story. So my dad, present in my life, present in my sister's life. But I have a little brother who grew up with his mother from my dad's second marriage. And in as much as my dad would contribute financially and all of that jazz, I see the disconnect between my pops and my little brother.
Yeah.
And every time I would engage my dad on this chat, I'm like, yo, man, why don't you like let this kid come over for the holidays and whatnot? He would speak about how he was the victim in all of these things.
Right.
Right? Now, how do we change the attitude of men internalizing the wrongs that were done to them in the name of accepting and saying, wait again, sure, I was done wrong, but I can do right. I don't have to look at the wrong that was done to me and react with another wrong.
This is gonna sound like a cliche, right? But I like cliches because they come from some sort of truth.
Sure.
And it's platforms like this, having the conversation, open up spaces for men to feel vulnerable, safe enough to say, I'm ready to face my demons, right? Because, and it's a cliche because we get tired of it.
Sure.
We get tired of it. We're talking about it all the time. Men act like victims. But actually, for something to get normalized and feel safe and comfortable, we do need to get tired of it. For us to be comfortable today in this day and age to say, I'm going for an annual HIV test, is because back in the day,
They
that's
used
all
to drive.
you heard.
They used to drive that.
It's all you heard. To say, okay, I'm going to the dentist, HIV test, and now it's normal. So until we get tired and bored of hearing that Black men don't have safe spaces for their mental health, for their experiences, for emotions, for their psyche, we're not done. We're not at the point where shifts can happen. Because those were 8 men in a population of how many
there's so many
in
men.
this country?
Yes.
Right? Where the majority are Black. And how many of us have grown up with absent fathers? And how many Black men don't feel safe? So it was Men's Health Month. And the amount of posts that I saw where men still feel like we're not talking about it enough, or they feel like we're just scratching the surface. And the amount of women that feel like, oh, but we have been talking about it, right? there's still a disconnect. There's still so the how is one, creating spaces where the conversation happens repeatedly, that it becomes the norm, that men then feel safe enough to be vulnerable so that they can take accountability, but also then that they feel safe enough to say, what happened to me for me to become an absent dad? These men, when I sat with them, had to, the interviews were painful. There was one of them who cried, smash, I get it, from the beginning of the interview, from the minute I walked into his yard, he had tears in his eyes till the end. And it almost felt like it wasn't an interview. I was actually in therapy with him because I constantly had to pause and say, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Right? That just shows you how vulnerable men are. And they don't feel safe. What we're saying and what we're offering you guys, are we actually practicing it?
Yeah, it's different, right?
It's different. And he messaged me after that and he was like, yo, thank you so much for creating a safe space for me to cry.
Sure.
I haven't been able to cry about this thing for 3 years. For 3 years. When was he going to reconnect with his child?
Sure.
There's no way. Because to reconnect with your child, after being absent for 3 years, you need to be able to survive his or her onolakai
Sure.
and the anger and all that comes with
Sure.
it, and also saying, hey, I did wrong.
And also the influence from Borakhadi, the influence from Bo Mani, the influence from the mom, the influence
Exactly.
from the grandparents.
And then also taking accountability that I made very poor choices.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Bruh. So here's another partner, because I started with like what happens when you are now trying to reconnect, and then you wish they would go. You don't get to reconnect. What did you learn about the fathers who got to reconnect? And did you also engage them on like what the future looks like? Because it's great. It's great. Like when you say, damn, I'm reconnected. We are talking and you are checking in on them, because it's not just the once-off interview and then you go on and then you submit your thesis. What does the future ahead look like for those two dads who were able to successfully reconnect
well,
with?
to be clear, I have lost contact. It was a twice encounter, two-time
Man.
encounter. One interview, second interview, and then that's that.
So, do you still have their contact? Maybe you should bring them on this podcast. I think that would be like next level, and then we'll turn this podcast into a reality TV show.
I'd get this part. Confidentiality and ethics won't
Oh,
allow. That's not what they
damn.
signed up for.
So, but
maybe they'll watch this and
yeah.
see.
Or maybe
Who knows?
yeah, and then if they hit
Maybe
us up,
they'll hit you up.
if they
Maybe.
if you're watching this right now and you know it's your truth,
and you recognize
hit me up, yo.
I looked different back then. But what was your question?
So, in terms of the dads who successfully reconnected with their kids, what were some of their hopes, and what did the future look like from their perspective? You did speak to them about that, at
Yes,
least, right?
yes. So, what I came to understand of all the participants and all the men is that nobody suffers on purpose. And what I mean by that is they've always you know, one of the dads said you can't bring a life into this world and forget that you did it. So I've sat with this all my life. And so of the two that reconnected and the six that wanted to but couldn't, they've always wanted to reconnect with their children. It's just a matter of couldn't, wouldn't, shift the things that need to shift or whatever was happening, right? They all desired to be present holistically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and physically in their children's lives. They all recognized that absence looks different.
Yes.
They all recognized that they were missing elements of that even if they contribute financially, they don't know they cared, and that's important.
Sure.
And they all could reconcile that because most of them weren't parented by their father either. So they knew, and one of them actually had recently at the time reconnected with his dad. And he was like, this dude doesn't know me. He doesn't know what makes me happy. He doesn't know my favorite food. My mom knows all of that. My uncles know all of that. And I don't want that for my kid. So the future for them was always them recognizing that because I had an absent dad, I know that it's not only finance. I don't know my child's favorite color. I don't know their best friend. I don't know what makes them laugh. I want to be able to pick up my child from school, and if they're having a bad day, I know what cheers them up. I want to be able to hug my kid. So a lot of them were talking about that, and a lot of them were grieving or very sad about their side of their lineage not being known by their kid, which motivated them. Like, there's something about genetics and wanting to, like, you're part of me. You don't know my side of the family. You
You see, you go.
you know the customs. One father I remember speaking about, he had a son, and he was like, I want to teach him how to be a man in terms of what it means to be a man in our family and our culture. And they're going to have kids, and those kids aren't the surname, yeah, Meabona.
Sure.
And I want to transfer that and teach him, Hore, what do we do to bring your child into, our family? A lot of them were like, I haven't seen my child in so long. I don't know if they look like me or not. Like, what part of me lives in them? A lot of them wanted to be understood by their kids, to say, the question I asked my dad, okay, I wasn't an oopsie, what happened?
Yeah.
And a lot of them wanted the opportunity, especially through my thesis, to say, this is what happened. This is my side of the story. And when you decide whether you want me in your life or not, at least you've got all the facts. Because they were also very open to the fact and the fear that their kids may not want them in their lives. And that was a painful possibility.
So, and I knew that this conversation will go over time, but I got time. I want to speak before I move on. You had like 4 objectives, and I'm still on number 1. But now we are in a way not going to objective number 2, but rather speaking about the notions of masculinity that you mentioned in your thesis, right? So I'm just gonna read. It reads, they spoke about the importance of a father's caregiving experience in a child's life, and at other times they reverted back to traditional perspectives of fatherhood identity that were grounded in the ability to provide financially, right? And then you go to say this has been seen in how caregiving as manly and masculine have been redefined. Furthermore, scholars speak about how fathers can also degender their parental identities and practices, resist and denounce some elements of hegemonic masculinity. Now, the reason why I'm touching on this, I got the experience of having to take care of my baby. You know what? I'm gonna give you like a page of my life. My ex-wife was adamant that I needed to know like what the food looks like, how to make the food, how to change the diaper, the routine, the importance of the routine, being able to put the baby to sleep myself, whether I'm on paper. Like
or you
I
shake
did
him
that.
today.
So because at the time we are separating right now, we are living in 2 different houses. So it'd be like, yeah, now it's your time to be with your child, you know? And now you've got this kid who's about to turn 1. It's a different ball game.
Yeah.
And then men will be like, I don't change no diapers.
Yeah.
I don't cook food for my baby. I don't make bottles. And I'm like, you are denying yourself a beautiful connection with your child if you have the privilege of being there.
Yeah.
And you remember I said this is how we are reminding people, because someone could be watching this and he had a baby last week.
Yeah.
So he's thinking of turning his back on this baby. In your experience as a mother, what are men missing out on in terms of being there in the very beginning of your baby's life, even though you don't get on?
Yeah.
You know? What are they missing out on? Like, if I had to say, gig guide, we're at this place, this is what's going down. guys who love groove would be like making a plan, whether they have money or not.
Yeah.
They'll be making a plan
Yeah.
to go there. So I want you to paint a picture on what men who are not part of this process, what are they missing out on?
Man, I would even start from pregnancy,
Sure,
nah?
sure.
Because what women just by virtue of carrying the baby, we get the luxury of and the benefit of is time to learn how to connect with this person and the seed. All right. Whether that baby is planned or not, we have our own anxieties. Um, Nobody was born a mom. I have to learn. So I have the privilege of time.
Sure.
Like I remember being pregnant and talking to my belly and feeling stupid. I'm speaking to a bean, but I'm gonna speak to it anyway, right? And if you have the benefit of having the father of the child engage in that, you see the complete difference when the baby's born because the man doesn't feel, or the father doesn't feel like a stranger to this person.
Whereas the mother has carried this person for
It's
an X amount of
there,
time.
dude. I felt you. I
So
know
connection.
you. I know when you're sleeping. Connection. It's like, and it's gradual connection. I think is what they missed out on.
So it's like your favorite song building up.
Yes, which is important.
Yeah.
Because in absenteeism, because a lot of men express not feeling ready or feeling anxious because it feels like it just happened now. It didn't. It took 9 months. I've had 9 months to learn this baby. I've had 9 months to figure out my own motherhood, think about it, fantasize about it, because it's happening. I can't ignore it. It's there every day. And the more you grow, I feel it and so on. So if you don't engage in that from that stage already, you're going to feel pressured for time. You're going to feel pressured to know now.
And I want to now when babies are concerned.
No, there's no now. So by the time I give birth and I am filled and overcome with all the feelings, both positive and negative, I've had time to sit with those things. When if it's the first time when the doctor gives it to you, the baby to you, you're going to drop the baby because you're gonna be like, yo, what's a lot?
Sure.
And the cry of the baby is going to frighten you because you're like, oh, she must hate me. No, she doesn't. She's
It's
just
normal.
She's just coming into the
And
world.
that's actually how babies communicate.
And you would know it from pregnancy because ha ke re ho wena as motwaka or a co-parent, let's say we split at pregnancy, but you still
there.
Ke tlo re, she's sitting funny today. She's not happy. Or she's
And
keeping
you
the
are
whole
aware
night.
of these
Yeah, she's keeping the
things.
whole night. Something's going on. So when it happens by the time she's born, you're like, ke ngwanaka o. Okay, this is what you need. And then when the baby's born, you miss out, like fathers will miss out on, or they'll say they miss out on not knowing the cry of the baby. So parents know the different cries. You get to learn it, right? Olapile, you just need a hug. You're being fussy. Is it a diaper change?
Irritation.
Is it irritation? You start to learn that cry. You start to learn. Do you just want to be jiggled up?
So it's like notes.
So I
Because
think
I'm gonna keep on using this music analogy. I'm sorry, because I feel like that's the only thing. I assume that's the only thing we all understand. Music or what music does to us.
Yes.
So let's build. We're gonna build now because I feel like we're focusing too much on the pregnancy and the arrival of the baby. So here is baby at 3 months versus baby at 6 months versus baby at 9 months.
A toddler.
When they get to toddlers.
And
it flies by.
Yes.
You know? So what could you pick from, like those things, like Bafet, get involved, even though but try by all means to reconnect so that you don't miss out on the milestones. I remember a time where it was so bad in my separation that I did not see my child for like almost something like a month. And the mother of my child was like, my G, I feel so sorry for you because you are missing out on the craziest thing. And watching them on video
is not the same.
I'm even like, I'm getting teary just thinking about that, you know? Yeah. So paint that picture for a dude because...
Also, you miss pieces of you. You must remember that child is 50% you. Mme wa teng a rata sa rate. That's the painful part that women have to deal with in a separation. Whether we like it or not, that child is 50% that man. So when you missing a week or a month, you're missing a week of seeing a part of you develop and a part of somebody who can be uh your best friend, because they look at you like, oh, you're my best friend. Well, my daughter says that now, but it depends. Like, if I don't do what she doesn't like, I don't like you. I don't like, you're not my best friend. But you miss that. Like, in that month, a lot can happen.
Yeah.
Where the last time you saw your daughter, her favorite fruit was a banana. Today,
now it's changed,
now
yeah?
it's changed. And you excited, I'm bringing you
Like, no,
bananas.
I want your banana.
And like, no. And then you feel rejected. So it's this like, it's this on and off, on and off, on and off thing. And then you don't feel like a dad, but you are. I think a lot of men miss out on that, the legitimacy of feeling like a dad. You are a dad. You just need to be consistently choosing to be a dad. The same way we consistently choose to be a friend. Like you said, if you say, hey dog, we're going to the club, you make a plan. So make a plan. Make a plan, Hore. You see them somehow. A week is too long to not see your child in person.
Oh man. All right. We're gonna go to part 2 of this conversation. Because we gotta unpack it. And to you watching this right now, I would really appreciate if you feel like there's something in your spirit, in your heart, that says reach out and hopefully come and engage in this conversation and share your reality, your situation about being an absent parent and hoping to reconnect with your child. Maybe you could be joining us in our next panel discussion, because this conversation is not about me taking parts of my life and taking parts of Hopolang's thesis and sharing it with you for the sake of like, this is a
Sharing.
conversation we need to put out, but rather a conversation that is ongoing. So in the comments, feel free to hit me up, and we'll arrange to see if you're going to be part of the panel and join in the conversation. This broadcast wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the good folks from dreamstream.co.za. Make sure you check out dreamstream.co.za if you would like to start a podcast, record music, or create video content. They've got all the stuff to lead you to your dreams. Make sure you check out dreamstream.co.za. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and commenting. Smash Africa for the babies. And this is to you who's watching this. Danko.
We gonna